Hi! How are you? Sorry for having disappeared over the summer. I'll explain later. A lot has happened, but you've just seen a movie I'm going to not review as much as do a series of telling guys why they should be watching chick flicks. I couldn't even, convince my own husband to watch them, and maybe that's why he's now my ex-husband. Yeah, I'll explain later. It's all good. But yeah, let's have a look. Why do I think these movies are great? And despite the silliness sometimes, what could one learn from it to understand women better? Haha. Okay, let's do this. Okay, obviously, there will be plenty of spoiler alerts. I mean, spoiler alert, there will be spoilers. And the movie starts with a quote from Jane Austen, of course. Is not general incivility the very essence of love? Sorry, I'm looking at the actual screen. I'm gonna watch the movie right now, again. And when I first saw that, I thought, I don't agree. But you gotta actually read Pride and Prejudice, because in the context, it absolutely makes sense. I loved watching the movie the second and third time around the most, actually, because when you rewatch the beginning of it, hold on. Yeah, that was the movie. So I love the beginning because it kind of shows all the technology that is kind of in our way, and we are struggling with the world around us, with the technology itself, but it also kind of relates how disconnected we are with each other. But once you rewatch the movie, you actually recognize the stars of the movie right in the beginning, in the first sequence, telling all about technology and us. I mean, you gotta love Allegra, right? The daughter, the lesbian in the movie, and has a great discussion with her dad right at the beginning, after the funeral of someone's dog, which is like a state funeral for a dog. And the father gets upset about the ridiculousness of it, right? The dad says humans need human connection, right? And Allegra disagrees, because she says, like, well, yes, some gay women might have the opportunity to get married, have children, but not all people do, gay or not, doesn't matter, right? So why is a connection with something else, not only someone else, less valid? It's a good point. It's a great topic for a discussion. Oh yeah. Then comes the introduction of the, well, we can't really call her a cougar. She's far too young to be a cougar, and yet she's a teacher, a very young teacher who goes for a very, very young student, old enough, obviously, to buy a bike and make his own decisions, but still her student. And she's married, and yet he appeals to her on so many levels. Now, the question a guy should maybe ask himself is, why does that boy appeal to her so much? First of all, he seems to be a very mature boy, not just, any ridiculous young man. There's something about him. It's the attention she gets from him, how focused he is on her, how much he wants her. And let me tell you, boys, not boys, men, that's all we want. We want to feel wanted in the nicest way possible, obviously. So I suppose her husband wasn't giving her that feeling whatsoever. And my question actually in general is, why are there so few men out there who are capable of giving such focused attention, like, as she says later, he looks at me as if he was the spoon and I was a dish of ice cream. Oh my god. So yeah. That kind of wanting someone, it's, yeah, no words. So there you go, guys. Learn. Or tell us why there's not more interest in what do we need to do to connect on a level to get that kind of attention? Is it possible to learn it or teach someone? I mean, Emily Blunt is so precious in this movie. She is playing this uptight young teacher, you know, and there's, you know, when they say still waters are deep, well, she's a deep one. So she meets her husband in a bar, all happy with books about Paris, because he was going to take her on a business trip to Paris, but you know, she was tagging along and she's never been there, yet she's a French teacher who's never been to France. And then he sees those books and goes like, oh my god, you know, Paris is off, I have to go to some basketball game and take so-and-so there. And she's completely disappointed. And he doesn't get it why. Because she storms off. And he simply doesn't know. He's doing something wrong, but he doesn't know what he's doing wrong. Is it really so hard to understand that, you know, your woman was so looking forward to this trip and you cancel it because your boss said you have to go to a basketball game, which is understandable. And it's not that, you know, we women don't understand what happens at your job, but then maybe take the hint and take a vacation and actually take her to Paris where, you know, your boss cannot tell you that you actually have to go somewhere else. Oh yeah, the married couple, 20 years together or more, I don't know. 3 kids or so, and he tells her over dinner he wants a divorce because actually he's seeing someone else, which it turns out she's actually the same age as his wife. So it's not about just having a younger woman or something, but actually fell in love with someone else. And yeah, I get that, I get all that, but it's actually one of my favorite parts of this story, how this couple takes everything apart and then finds back together. And everything revolves actually around reading Jane Austen's books and how people find to each other through them. Well, have a look. I mean, splitting up after a long time when you were really committed to each other is always hard. Good question is, when do you do it? How long do you wait? When is a marriage not working anymore? So, do you wait until you hate each other? Hopefully not. But do you have the strength to actually take things apart before you start hating each other? Huh? Do you? Oh well. I mean, so many couples hit that point, right? Someone explained to me once that a couple needs a nucleus. So basically something in between you two, that you shared. So at the beginning it will be shared time, maybe shared interests, then maybe there will be kids, and kids are very often the thing that you share. And the problem is, if you have nothing else that you're sharing, it could be that you're missing out on that, and when the kids grow up, suddenly the thing that you shared is gone and you don't know what to do with each other anymore, because you've also changed so much throughout the years. You don't know each other anymore. So how do you rebuild actually? How do you find back to each other? Or how do you communicate that this is not working for you anymore, but you still want to find out if perhaps, you know, what's missing and how you can rebuild this? Hopefully. Of course, one of my most relatable characters perhaps is Jocelyn. I mean, she's a control freak, very obviously. And she's got all these dogs, and she likes to be obeyed, and she doesn't really think that love is more than maybe fiction or something. Never happened to her, really. And how to pry someone's fingers loose in order to make them see you, that you're actually interested in them. If someone is so much of a control freak, always taking care of everyone else all the time, to convince that person to relax and actually accept the attention and love of someone who really cares, I know how hard that is. I'm guilty of that as well sometimes, or used to be. So there's so many beautiful stories in there, how to approach a woman, relationships, how to find back to each other. So I'm gonna leave it at that. Have a look yourself. It's such a beautiful, one of my favorite movies. Like, I wouldn't even consider it as a chick flick, as we usually say, even though, yes, surely it belongs in the category as such. But it's not one of those over-the-top, ridiculous ones. It's one of those very quite down-to-earth, quite realistic ones, I would say. Just similar to Under the Tuscan Sun. We'll comment on that later. But this video has been long enough, so hopefully you enjoyed these kind of thoughts on the movie and what we can learn from it. There's so much more, obviously. So I'll add more later on if anything else comes to mind. Otherwise, see you next time.